Welcome back to another episode of Nacoa's Lunchtime Lives, a series of live interviews where I interview people that have advocated for children of alcoholics and Nacoa alike, and these go out live on one of our social media platforms. In this episode, I speak to the incredible Jennifer Payne. Now, Jen is a new volunteer for Nacoa, having gone through the training program last year, at the back end of last year, and is going to be supporting Nacoa this year in the training for the latest bunch of eagerly anticipated new volunteers. This is an emotional episode actually, and Jen really does go into vulnerability and really takes a lot of courage to share with her personal experiences. For me, certainly towards the back end, when we start looking at advice for people that might be living with a parent that is actively in their drinking, Jen gives us some stuff that we can really take away and learn. I had some sort of aha, wow moments at the end of this interview, and I hope that you get some of those too. Remember, if this is the first time you've ever been here, do make sure that you do subscribe and turn on the notifications so you know each and every time we post a video. And I really hope that you get as much from this interview as I know that I did. Here you are.
Hello.
How are you doing?
I'm good. Yeah. How are you?
Right. I'm good, and I'm looking forward to chatting. And
yes, me too.
Having a nice conversation with you about this. Listen, why don't we hit it straight off by giving you an opportunity to introduce yourself?
Yes. So, hi everyone. For everyone who's watching, I'm Jen. I am an ACOA volunteer. And what else do you want to know? I don't know what else to say. Yeah, I haven't got much going on at the minute, being in lockdown. So, this is me.
So you're furloughed currently from your current job, right?
Yeah, just on furlough, but we had some news yesterday of a return date, so I'm very excited about that.
Yeah.
Get back to life as we know it, kind of.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I'm looking forward to getting back to it.
How have you found the latest lockdown?
I think this one's been more challenging, I think, just because it's been winter and we've not really been able to get out and do stuff. So it's been a lot more challenging than the previous ones, but still a lot more hopeful that it's going to be the last.
Yeah.
Famous last words.
Well, he seems confident, doesn't he, this time? That,
yeah.
This is the one that we don't turn back on.
Well, exactly.
So look, why don't you tell us a little bit about how and when you found Nacoa?
Yes. So I found Nacoa about 2 years ago now. And I was frantically searching for a platform that I could basically like try and help people that were in my situation. I was hearing more and more stories from other people that I worked with and from friends that I've met since moving down south that there's other people like me, and I really wanted to try and do something for them or help them or feel like they've got someone that they can talk to, and the famous hashtag of Nacoa, that they're not alone, because I felt so alone through my experiences, and I really wanted to try and find a charity that was supporting that, and I just couldn't find anything, and I think Nacoa popped up on Facebook one day, and it was just so unique, and so it was just amazing to come across a charity that was helping children of alcoholics rather than the alcoholics themselves. There's so much out there to help people go through their own experiences and go through recovery, which is brilliant, but there was just nothing for the families that were affected. And personally, I felt that the children and the families of alcoholics are more affected from the situation than the alcoholics themselves.
Yeah, that's a big statement, and I don't think I would argue with that.
Yeah.
And how long ago was this? When was this that you found us?
It was about 2 years ago. It was funny actually. I went to Rome with my sister, and I talk to literally anyone. Like, ask anyone I know, I will literally talk to. I'm that person that you get on the bus and starts chatting to everybody. There's always an empty seat next to me. And we were on our way home, and I sat next to this elderly gentleman, and we just got chatting. It was over a bag of peanuts, because controversial, can you have peanuts on a plane or not? And we just got chatting, and he just told me that his son was an alcoholic. And I just felt so compelled to tell him my story as well. And the whole flight back from Rome, we just chatted about it.
Wow.
And he was telling me about his situation, and it was just incredible that people were willing to share that and the effect that it had on him. which made me start looking at other avenues of trying to reach out to other children of alcoholics or people who have been affected by alcohol in their lives. And that's why I started then searching the internet for a charity that helped them. And that's then, again, when I came across Nacoa. So,
wow. What an incredible story that it was born out of that kind of connection with somebody else who had a similar experience.
Yeah, he gave me his email, and I actually emailed him when I signed up to be a Nacoa volunteer and started the training course. I emailed him to say, I found this charity, like, if you've not heard of them, please reach out to them. And I didn't hear back, but I'm just, if you read it, then great. But it was just so amazing that so you could connect with a complete stranger in that way, over something so relatable, and so common in a lot of families now. So yeah, it was pretty amazing.
Yeah. So shall we talk a little bit about the personal experiences that led you to, you've sort of alluded to it already, that you had your own, your personal experience of what you experienced. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah. So, I have always been around alcoholics my entire life. My great grandmother was an alcoholic. My uncle was an alcoholic. My nan was an alcoholic, and my mum is an alcoholic. So I've constantly been around people who excessively drink. And it's quite an eye-opener, because I think from growing up, and, you mentioned you hear people of alcoholics, and there's such a stigma around, only homeless people can be alcoholics, or only people with addiction can be alcoholics. You possibly couldn't get someone who worked a full-time job to be an alcoholic. And it was so wrong, and it was so difficult to explain. Oh no, my mum works full-time but is still an alcoholic. It just didn't really comprehend, and people were like, no, like that's not true, she can't be, she might just fancy a drink at the weekend. Or it's like, no, she depends on it. But yeah, I've always been around alcoholics and the variations of personalities. I never knew my great grandmother, but I never really heard any nice things about her. My auntie, as well as my nan, have been great support through my entire life. And my auntie told me a lot of stories about her mother that just was awful. And then my uncle was an alcoholic, but he was such an amazing man. He was so lovely and gentle and kind and loving, and it's so difficult to understand why he chose that path for himself. And then my nan, again, amazing. Like, my nan was everything for me. Like, she was an amazing woman. But then died of liver failure. And my mum, again, started off being a really amazing woman, but turned so violent. So there's so many different personality traits that alcoholics have. There's no set personality trait of an alcoholic. So I think I've seen many phases of it as well. I've seen someone at the very end of their life. I've seen someone starting to become an alcoholic. I've seen someone in the midst of it, and I've seen someone, another person who I didn't even know was an alcoholic and then died within the space of a week. So it's been very varied. I'd say was the best word to describe my experiences.
Do you think that perception that people have of somebody that's alcoholic has to be, I don't know, drinking out of a paper bag on a park bench, right? Do you think that devalued your experience a little bit over time? Like, you just spoke, you said that your mum always, your mum worked full time. And so people almost would say to you, did you ever turn that in on yourself and think, like, I must be the problem? Am I seeing it wrong? Did it confuse you?
Yeah, massively, because I was kind of thinking, it was almost like, you see movies and you see TV adverts, and it's like, or TV programs, and the alcoholic's always the one living on a park bench. And it's like, it almost made me think, oh, well, is my mum an alcoholic, or does she just like to have a drink? Like, can she control it? Can she make her own decisions? Is it a choice for her? I think alcoholics, personally, I don't think it is a choice. I think it's an illness, and I think they're so wrapped in their own addiction, it's very difficult for them to tear themselves away. But I also think it's a very selfish addiction. And I think from my mum being an alcoholic, from the early days, everyone loved her. She was, every time someone mentioned my mum to me, that, oh, she's such a nice person, and she's so kind, and da 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 da. And I'm like, it was really confusing to say, well, does she come under being that word alcoholic, or does she just drink too much, or just like a drink on a Friday night? So it was really confusing, really. I mean, I always got the blame for her drinking. So it was very confusing, and I almost, for many, many years, always did think that it was me. That was the problem.
Mm. So you literally grew up thinking that the problem was you?
Well, I was told it was me many, many times. So yeah.
Wow. How did you come through that? How did you come to the realization that, or when? Let's ask you first. When do you remember when you came to the realization? Is it something that you still struggle with?
I think I massively still struggle with it now. I was always told it was my fault. I still am now told it's my fault. If she has moments now where won't hear from her for months, and then she'll just call me having an episode, and this is all your fault, and I'm doing this because of you, and it's still going on. I'm still struggling with it every day. But I think I've surrounded myself with people that tell me more often than it's not, and I think I'm learning so much through Nacoa, actually, and doing the training and seeing. Sorry, I don't want to get upset. And seeing all the material that comes out from. Sorry.
Do you all right? Take your time.
Seeing all the material from what comes out, and talking to other people who have been through their own experiences makes me realize that maybe it's not always my fault. I think I'm a bit of a fixer, so I try and fix situations. So I think sometimes I may have caused maybe some of the arguments, but I think for the reason for it to get there in the first place wasn't my fault, and I know that now. But it's still something I'm still trying to deal with each day by day.
Yeah, and listen,
Sorry.
I think no apologies. I think it takes a lot of courage to be able to speak in the way that you've just spoke, and I'll tell you exactly what I mean by that. And there's a lot of love you'll see coming in from the people that are watching. But I'll tell you exactly what I mean by the courage and what you've been able to say. I think it can be easy for us to say the things that we think we're supposed to say. As in, I know now it's not my fault and it was an illness and that's the end of it, right? And I can say those things if I want. And I can say them and mean them. But I think behind all of it, there's always the questions. And it's always the stuff that you're always battling with. So to be able to kind of speak about it in a way where you have the vulnerability to be able to say what you've said in a way that makes a lot of sense, I think takes a lot of courage. I just want to read a couple of these things. Hillary has said it's wonderful to meet you, and she's here in spirit. Hillary, our CEO. I don't know if you've met her properly yet. Have you?
I haven't.
No, she's amazing. You're so wonderful to speak about this. I'm not there yet. Yeah, see that. And I think, listen, if we're all honest, I don't know if we'll ever get there. I don't know if it's a destination that you can reach, right? I don't know. It's certainly not one that I've fully reached, all right? And I think anytime that I do think I've reached it, I'll have a moment come along and smack me in the face, and I'm back to where I mean. Beth has asked, what do you mean by training with Nacoa? We're gonna come on to that in a moment. I just want to talk a little bit more because I want to get on to talking about. So stick with us, Beth. We're talking about the training to become a Nacoa volunteer. You talked a little bit, and if this gets too much, we'll go straight to the training. But you talked a little bit about how you do remember like your mum being nice at the beginning. Was there a time where you kind of realized that things weren't how they were supposed to be?
Yeah, I mean, my mum's always drank, but when I was younger, there was a lot more potentially like nicer days, and then more so than the bad days. But the older I got and the more dependent she got, the worse they became, more bad days than good. So I really tried to cling on to, when we did have a good day, I really tried to cling on to them, because with an alcoholic, you never get many good days. And because she's my mom, it was just more of an opportunity to just go with it. So, you know, we don't have the best relationship. It's very complicated, and it's very turmoil. It's not a good relationship to be in. But the odd occasion when she does have a good day, you know, I have to cling on to that, because as damaged as she is and as addicted as she is to alcohol, you know, I still want my mum to be my mum.
Wow.
So I do try, when she has good days, I do try to reach out and have those days with her. Because, you know, you're just not going to get it again. So she's the only one I've got.
Yeah.
You know?
And I think that's such a hard thing, right? And it's such a poignant thing that you say, because I even resonate. I lost my dad when I was 9 years old, yeah, but I still resonate with, I still want him to be my dad.
Yeah.
And when you're sort of scratching around for reasons to justify feeling like you love him like I love him for being my dad, it's not easy, you know? And I think what you've managed to talk about is some of the deep impacts here. I think people often think that it's all about what it's like when your parent is drunk, but a lot of it's about the ways that the behavior makes you feel. What do you think is like some of the lasting impacts that it's had on you as a person?
It's had a huge impact on me, and I'm massively damaged as a person. I think seeing so much of it and being around it, and like I said, my nan was never, I mean, I didn't realise my nan drank as much as she did until she died, which was heartbreaking, because I always thought I could have, like, I'm always thinking, like, oh, what could I have done? How could I not have seen that? Like, I live with my mum who's an alcoholic, or I'm around my mum who's an alcoholic. Like, how could I not have picked up on that with my nan? So I feel it's massively damaged my mental health. Not many people were aware, but I had massively suffered with an eating disorder. I'm still quite particular with my food now. I'm really self-conscious about the way I look and the way I feel. I'm potentially not as confident as people think I am, maybe. I'm very good at, you know, putting the lipstick on and going to work and putting a smile on my face and everything's okay. I've always been great at that, masking it. But I think my confidence, and I think my self belief in my own belief in myself is being hugely impacted. I've had meltdowns, you know, I've cancelled going to events, I've cancelled going places, I've made excuses to go places, just because I didn't want to leave the house on my own. So it's been huge. It's been huge.
I think that's I think that's a common trait in a lot of us. Like, and people don't believe me often when I say it, but I'm like ridiculously self-conscious. Like, I see people taking photos of themselves online, like selfies. And once upon a time, I used to sort of take the mickey out of people for doing it. And the reason I did is because I can't do it. I've never ever taken a picture of myself and thought, you look all right in that. Do you know what I mean? I don't. I hide it behind like I mean, I don't wear lipstick, but I do the equivalent of putting lipstick on and showing up, right? I do the equivalent of that. So like that really resonates with me, and that kind of low self-worth. But you talked a little bit about, you think you're a fixer. Can you tell me a little bit more about that? Only because it's something that resonates with me. How does that play out in your life?
So when I was living at home, I used to try and hide a lot of what my mum was doing from my sister and my dad. So I would try and get home as quickly as possible to clean up whatever was there, or I would, if she had been sick, or if she'd fallen out of the bed or whatever, then I would try and like wash it all up and get it all like back to normal and just put it back into bed, just so it kind of looked like she'd just had a drink that day. But I would lie in bed and I would just hear the drawer open, and instantly I'd just jump up and I'd go into the bedroom and I'd be like, what are you doing? And she'd be like, oh, you know, and she'd be like making excuses, and I knew what she was getting, but I tried to always stop it. So I was trying to always preempt the drinking. And the funny thing is, with my mom, I've never actually seen her with a glass in her hand. I've never actually seen her drinking.
Wow.
It's very, very secretive, very, very secretive. She's never physically, unless we've been in like, situations where we've been in parties or whatever, I've never actually physically seen her drink. So it's very, very, always done behind closed doors, very secretive. But I always tried to stop her from drinking that extra bottle, or I always stopped her from, there's one moment actually where it got completely out of control, and my neighbour, my friend, who I've been friends with since day one, since I was born, basically, she's been my friend for 32 years. She lived a few doors down, and I tried to get a bottle off her, and she made that much of an argument out of it. My neighbour 2 doors down heard the commotion, and she ran out of her house and physically had to pull me off my mum, because she was just going crazy. And it was so noisy and so loud. And I remember my nan was coming home from somewhere, and she was walking up the road, and we just saw her, and she was running up the road trying to grab me, basically. And she just threw me out of the house, and she was kicking and screaming and throwing things at me, and my whole entire contents of my bedroom was at the bottom of the stairs, and it was just horrendous. And that was because I tried to stop her from drinking. I was always trying to stop her from drinking, because my sister and my dad were coming home from school or work or whatever. So I was always trying to fix that part of it. And I always thought if I could stop her from drinking, then there won't be an argument tonight, or there won't be a fight tonight, or my dad might be able to sleep tonight, or Becky, my sister, might be able to get some sleep tonight, or I could sleep tonight. I was always trying to fix it and trying to stop it from happening. But it never worked.
And what
Never.
age were you when you were doing this?
From 11 onwards, 11, 12, maybe.
Wow. That's such a huge burden to bear at that age, right?
Yeah.
And do you feel like you carried some of them characteristics into your adult life? Like does that still play out in your adult relationships, friendships, and?
Yeah, like I'm always trying, and I think I maybe try too hard sometimes, but I just want people to like me. I'm always wanting for that approval. I'm always like, I'm so scared of people not liking who I am, or I'm scared of coming across like an annoyance. I'm so worried, and I'm always apologizing. I'm like, I'm sorry about that, or I didn't mean to do that. I'm really sorry. Don't take offense to that. I'm always constantly looking for that approval, to be liked.
Yeah. Again,
because I never felt like I was at home.
Yeah, and again, it's something that's so common, I always talk about when I ask someone to do something, I always give them about 50 outs to not do it. I'm like, if I'm asking for somebody to do something for me, I'm like, don't worry if you can't. Seriously, it's totally fine.
Yeah, it's always a caveat. It's like, can you do this? But if you're busy, don't worry.
Yeah, literally, I don't care what happens to me, just as long as you're all right. Like, I'll get hit by a bus, it's fine. I don't like do you know what I mean? I literally go to that lengths, and I think it's common amongst us all. And as somebody who interacts with a lot of alcoholics and recognize how often I do it, the whole apologizing, do you know what I mean? The whole apologizing, I apologize for everything, for existing half of the time. Do you know what I mean? Somebody could open the door into me and spill a drink down my front, and I will apologize.
I'm so sorry. Yeah.
I'm sorry I've put you in this position.
Yeah. I'm so sorry I spilled your drink. Let me buy you a new one.
Yeah, it's very true. I just want to read a couple, because Hillary's come and said, your honesty is inspiring. Me too, Ari, the eating, lipstick, and ability to engage with life. And, it's all strengths. And she's saying, welcome to our tribe. I think that's the eating thing too. I don't know how common it is, but hearing you talk about it, even as a man, by the way, I'm terrible with it. Like, I will have, so like yesterday, for example, and I still do this now, right? Yesterday I had 2 segments of a Terry's chocolate orange that my daughter got. And this morning I was convinced I looked fatter, and I was like, it's because I've ate those 2 bits of chocolate orange. Do you know what I mean? So I really resonate. In a way, we laugh at these things, right? Because I think we have to, right? And this has just kind of been this has been our life, right?
No, absolutely.
how do you think you've managed to carve out an adult life from what you experienced? I know that's a big question.
Yeah, I think it was almost like I've been around situations with, you know, all the people in my family who have had alcohol issues. I've seen so much of it, and it was like almost like it was just something in me that I was like, I don't want to be that person. Like, I don't want that for my life. That's not what I want for me. And then when my nan died, she was like I said, she was amazing. She was such an incredible woman, and she, for me anyway, like, she had so much going for her, and she was so young. And then for it to take over her life the way it did, it that was a huge, like, it had a huge impact on me, because I thought, how can someone who I thought had it together like that become an alcoholic? It just didn't make any sense. And I just thought, that's not me. That's not what I want to be. That's not what I want to do. And especially with my mum as well, like, we're very alike. Me and my mum, we look very alike. We're, you know, she's definitely my mum. And it's the mannerisms that she has. I didn't like how she was, and people kept telling me, oh, you're just like your mum, and I didn't like it. I was like, no, I'm not. Like, I'm not my mum. And it was almost a resistance, like, no, I don't want to be that person. Stop telling me I'm like her, because I'm not that person. So I think I carved my own future, in the sense that that's not what I want to be. And I wanted to be someone that I could be proud of, and someone that my nan would be proud of, and my family would be proud of, rather than me just being told, oh, well, you're just like your mum. And I was told by a lot of people, oh, that's going to be you, because, you know, it's hereditary and you're going to end up like that. And it was just such a resistance that that's not going to be me. It might be my stubborn side, to say, no, like, that's not what's going to happen.
So what did that mean? What did that mean for your relationship with alcohol?
It's difficult, in the sense of, I don't drink at all now. I struggled. I was never really a big drinker. I wasn't one for, you know, going out. I went out a lot when I was younger, but I never drank that much. I was always, my nickname used to be Two Gins Jen, because I just used to drink 2 drinks and that was it. I was like completely gone. So it was never something that I could do anyway. But I think that a lot of that was down to my own conscious of being, like, trying to control it, you know, not letting myself get that far. But at the moment, I struggle with it a lot, and I feel a lot of guilt if I think about it. I feel a lot of anxiety about it. I can't, you know, over the years I've gone, oh, shall I have a glass of wine with my husband? And then I've gone, no, I don't want one, because you know, what if that one turns me? What if that one makes me into an alcoholic? What if that one makes me want another one and another one and another one? And I just don't want to let myself get that way. So I just decided to not drink at all.
Right.
But it's very difficult being in a environment and my age group who always go out drink, and, you know, you find yourself not getting invited to things as much, and, you know, not drinking makes you look boring, and being boring, you don't, and being classed as like a boring person, then you don't get invited to things, or you don't get involved in things as much, because you just think, oh, well, she doesn't drink, so, you know, she can't have any fun. So I was really pushing myself to do things and push myself out my comfort zone to, you know, jump up on the karaoke without having a drink, just to show people that I'm not boring just because I don't drink. So it's challenging.
Yeah.
It's challenging, to say the least, and it's difficult, because it's so populated. Everyone does it. You know, it's just a thing to do. Like, you know, lockdown's finishing and everyone wants to go to the pub. That's the first thing everyone's saying. It's like, you know, it's hard.
How long has it been since you decided against drinking?
I decided to stop drinking about 4 years ago.
Okay.
And the odd occasion, Christmas Eve, you know, said this before to you, I have a Bailey's on Christmas Eve. And this year was the first year that I just didn't want it. I poured it, I just like, no, I don't want to. I just didn't want to do it. And it's completely just put me off. I can't even cook with alcohol anymore. The smell of it just makes me feel physically sick.
Yeah, maybe that's the best way. Maybe it's the best way. And
Yeah.
I've certainly found, as somebody that doesn't drink myself, you know, when people say, like, I still play for a football team, for example, so they have nights out and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And
I know, I work in sales.
Yeah.
You know, we're just constantly like, you know, booming with that. So.
Yeah. And like I say to them, if you're going out to do something, like if the night out is evolved around bowling and drink is adding to it, I'll come and bowl.
Yeah.
But I'm not coming to sit in a pub while you all get plastered, where the main objective is to get plastered. Right?
Yeah.
Not because I can't have fun, just because I think watching you get plastered is boring. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's just like my idea of what boring is has changed a lot, right?
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about what what you think people what you thought when we, because you just mentioned COVID, and made me think, what was your first thought about children when we went into lockdown?
It was just heartbreaking, because I mean, I've never been in a situation as a child living with an alcoholic and having to be so refined, but obviously we had half terms and summer holidays to contend with, which were difficult, you know. And she didn't drink every day, but she drank a lot of the time. But to think of children now in lockdown with maybe both parents being alcoholics, is just, I just can't even imagine what they're going through. It's just because everyone's experience is completely different. You're never going to get a child of an alcoholic with the same experience. It's not going to be the case. So, you know, you can't imagine what they're going through, but you've got an idea of how they're potentially feeling. And that's why when I started volunteering for Nacoa, it was so important to be able to reach those children, because it's just heartbreaking. It really is, to think of them, you know, not being able to talk to anybody, or to thinking that they are alone. It's just not okay.
No,
it really isn't.
Particularly when there was no end in sight. I think that was what used to scare me the most, you know, like 6 weeks holidays with a 6 weeks holidays. At least these kids would know that September was coming eventually. Do you know what I mean?
Exactly. Yeah, it's a countdown for them. So
they just had to get through it. But I see Callum's in the building as well, sending claps and love hearts, which is good. So tell us a little bit about the training then. So you've done, I know the answers, of course, because I did it with you. But when did you do the Nacoa training? I should know the answer. I can't remember.
I done the Nacoa training. I can't remember myself.
November? October?
I think it was October, November. It was because we had that week 10 week over in half term, didn't we, for October? So yeah, I think it was October, November time. And I done it with you and Steph. That was the last.
Yeah, so that was in October. Talk us through the experience. What was it like to do the training?
At first it was really nerve-wracking, because it was one of the first time, like it was the first time I'd ever come across anybody else really that wasn't like friends of mine that had been through similar situations. So I didn't really know what to expect when going on the training, but it was pretty eye-opening. And I think living with an alcoholic, you think that you know everything about it, and then you do the training and you think, wow, there's so much that I actually don't know, and I can now tell people about, and I understand certain aspects of how I feel. And also it validated my feelings a lot. It validated that actually what I was feeling was normal, and I wasn't a crazy person. And I'm not alone. That was the huge message throughout it, is you're not alone.
Because I remember when I did it, it was life-changing for me, right? And I had the two same things, right? I had this idea when I went in to do the Nacoa training that this was going to be me sharing my wealth of knowledge around addiction, right? Like Nacoa really need me, and I'm gonna really teach them a lot about addiction. And then I sat there and it just smacked me in the face, and I was like, I never knew none of this. Do you know what I mean? Like my whole outlook on everything kind of changed, actually. And I think in a way it really opened my eyes, but it also, like you said, helped me to fully comprehend the fact that I wasn't alone, to be quite intense, right? Did you find it intense?
Yeah, it was intense, and there was a lot of sessions where there were like there's quite a lot of triggers of like brought back a lot of feelings and brought back moments of my life where I was like, oh wow, like yeah, that actually puts a lot of meaning to how I was feeling at that part of my life. And you know, it was incredible. And like you say, I went on there like, yeah, I know everything, it's gonna be fine, like they're gonna love all of this stuff I've got to say, and they're gonna want to know more. And it was like, hold on a second, no, I'm not the only one in this room who's got all this experience, and actually I know nothing. So
Yeah.
let's like rewind that and start again. But no, it was massively inspiring, because you think you meet all of these people who are just look like everyday people, and you think, how have you been through so much and still, you know, and still feel brave enough to talk about it. And it builds up a lot of my confidence actually as well, to think, you know what, no, I can talk about it and it's okay. And my feelings are validated and they're real. And, you know, if my experience is going to help someone else, then great, you know, to make a child feel that way as well. So yeah, the training's amazing.
Yeah.
The training is amazing.
It does teach you that seeing, like, whenever we have the Nacoa get-togethers, even not just the training, right, but when we do things and you see everybody else, like, it does, even now, right, and I've been kind of in this for a few years now, I still realize how I create a picture of what a child of an alcoholic's going to look like in my head, because I see it, like, you know, like I'd see you and I'm still get like, what, you, like, really, what you, like, how bad though? How bad?
Yeah.
And then you tell me,
Did she have a drink on a Friday?
Because you still paint this. We still do it as humans, right? We create this idea, and I think there's part of me that always thinks, you know, well, it couldn't have been as bad necessarily as it was for me, if you know what I mean. But then I hear other stories, and I'm like, wow, and that, like, the whole "you're not alone" is really, really powerful. And I think it really highlights how we have really genuinely spent our lives believing there's no one else that experiences what we do, you know?
Yeah.
I'm just going to read what Lucy said. My mum has been an alcoholic for the last 25 years and is currently in hospital with the end stages of cirrhosis. Witnessing the physical effects on this horrible illness is horrendous. Is that something you've got experience as well, seeing the change in your mum?
Yeah, so my mum is, at the moment, she can still do everyday life, you know, she can still function like a normal person. My nan went downhill really quickly, and the last week of her life, seeing the changes of her and knowing the woman that she was just horrendous. You know, seeing that, it's just and I think the worst part of it was knowing that she did that to herself. You know, she did that. No one forced it down her neck. Like, she made that decision to drink, and then it got out of hand, and then she couldn't stop, and it was all completely self-inflicted. And it's just, for me personally, being an alcoholic is a very slow way of basically, you know, committing
taking your own life. Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
There's a lot to that, right? It's that consistent escape until in the end it tips you over the edge. Hillary just saying that it is the collective voice that speaks our truth, and I think that's so true, right? And I think what's really important is when we talk about it's like and what you're capturing in the way that you talk, and I think we're able to do it so well, is the kind of contradicting feelings. You're talking with a lot of compassion, and almost, although I think we never fully understand, but there's an understanding of what your mum was experiencing, and and there's still all these other things of it being self-inflicted and that kind of stuff, you know. I always would find it very hard to I would feel a sense of guilt if I was talking to somebody who, I lost my dad at 9. If I met somebody who lost their dad at 9 in a car crash, for example, there would be a part of me that thinks that my experience is of less value because my dad died because of his drinking. Do you know what I mean? Well, I would feel in society that my dad's life and death was of less value, and that's like a really hard thing to comprehend and get your head around, I think, for a lot of people.
Yeah, it's so difficult because I think you feel. I mean, I don't really speak to my mum at all, and I feel guilty. I feel guilty that I don't speak to her, but I'm always met. You know, on 9 times out of 10, if I do speak to her, I'm met with grief, or I'm met with an argument, or I'm met with, you know, just something a conversation that isn't very nice. And you think, why do I keep putting myself through it? But then I also think, well, if it does take her life, then that's she's my only mom. She's the only mom I'm gonna have. You know, I'm not gonna have any another mom. So there's a very fine line of how much do you want to put yourself through before, you know, before it completely takes over your life, or before she's gone, you know.
Well, it's one of the most awful kind of like T junctions of anybody's life. I mean, how could you possibly, you can't, there is no right decision in that.
No.
Both decisions are wrong. Both are going to cause pain. Both don't lead anywhere nice, right? So,
no.
Like, what do you do? And I think we live in a society as well that finds that very hard to comprehend. If you haven't experienced the things that we've experienced, 9 times out of 10, people will say, you only get one parent, you know, you should make more of an effort because you'll be gutted when they're gone. That's the only line that society gives, and it's just not that simple, is it?
No. Okay. I always think of back to the training. It's like we said, if I come up to somebody and said, oh, I've got this person in my life and they're really horrible towards me and they're really nasty and they, you know, they're mentally torturing me and they just don't like me and they don't want to be around me, and every time I speak to them I have an argument with them, their response would be, why are they in your life? Like, take them out. But then the minute I go, yeah, but it's my mom, they're like, oh, okay. Oh, hold on. Yeah, no, maybe. Well, she's your mom, so
she's doing her best.
Just let her do it. It's like, hold on a second. 2 seconds ago, you were like, get rid. And now because I've said she's my mom or my dad or, you know, whoever it is in this situation, it's like, oh yeah, but you know, they're your mom or they're your parent. It just doesn't make any sense. And it's really difficult to, you know, I said earlier on, we do have the odd day that is good. And I do try and cling on to those days, but they're very, very few and far between, and they're so infrequent now. It hardly happens at all. But I still have my you know, my family who are still there. You know, my mum and dad are still together. My sister's only around the corner from them, so you know, I don't want to lose them either. In the sense of, if I don't speak to my mum, I could lose other people. So it's that fine line of what do you do.
It's such a complex situation. I did a video on my YouTube channel a while back saying, should I cut ties with my alcoholic parent, right? And essentially in the video I just said, if that has become the only thing you can do in order to keep you sane, then like, I think you should be supported. Only you can make that decision, but you should be supported. You should be supported into that decision. And I got abuse for that.
I bet, yeah,
people messaging me saying, you've got no right to say that. Who do you think you are, suggesting that people should cut ties with someone that's ill and all that stuff, right? So it's such a difficult. The reason I'm saying that is because it's such an emotive conversation, and one that's so difficult. It's very tricky to find a space for people that are experiencing it where they can explore it. Do you know what I mean? In a way, and feel supported.
I was really lucky in the sense of we had a situation. I got married a couple of years ago, and I didn't want my mum to be there purely because I know my behavior changes when I'm around my mum. I'm on edge. I'm constantly like, where is she? What's she doing? Where is she now? What drawer is she in? Where is she? What room is she in? Like, I'm constantly like that when I'm around her. So I didn't want to feel like that on the biggest day of my life. You know, I didn't want that at all. And I was pretty much told, you know, if she doesn't go, then my family wouldn't come. So that was hard to deal with and have that as an ultimatum, you know.
Did she come?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Otherwise my dad wouldn't have been there.
And was it a tricky day? Was it on your mind?
It was on my mind, but I really tried, because I married my husband, who I think is the best human on earth. and he'll hate me for saying that as well. But I think he's massive. He's the most amazing person. So that was all I was trying to focus on, was just the fact that I was actually marrying him, and I tried to just kind of block everything else out, because that was my day, and it was something I never thought I was ever going to get. So it was, I just really tried to focus on what was important. And I had the people in the morning. I had my sister and my two sister-in-laws in the room with me when I was getting ready, and that was it. And I didn't have any parents involved, and it was just gorgeous. And I think because I made those decisions in the morning of the wedding, that really helped set out my overall persona for the rest of the day, because I was able to relax, and I was able to be in this space and the bubble where I knew I had people around me who were as excited as I was to be getting married that day. So I think you can definitely make choices to make things easier if situations like that come up, but it's very difficult. Very, very difficult.
No, but that's so important what you've just said there for a lot of people to hear, because I'd imagine it's a massive fear for people on their wedding days when they've got parents that are still like a massive, and the fact that you went through that way and you dealt with it in the way that you did, I think it will be really like good for people to hear.
Yeah, it's hard. I, as a woman, I want my mum to be involved in picking the dress, and and going to see the venues, and going to being there in the morning of the wedding. And I never had that, because I chose not to, because I didn't want to. There's been occasions where I've been on nights out before, and she's been completely awful to the way I look, and said horrible comments on the way I look, just because she was drunk. So I thought, I don't want to be in a dress, and for her to comment on something, because that will really stick with my mind. So I just completely took her out of that altogether. And almost I was thinking, oh, maybe this will make her learn, maybe this will give her that lesson that goes, oh well, if I'm missing out on this, then I need to change. And I was hoping that could be a wake-up call as well, but it never was. And I think you can make these decisions, and it's still hard now to think that I couldn't have my mum there, and it wasn't because I didn't want her there, it was because I couldn't, because it physically would have been a completely different experience.
And what you're talking, you wanted your mum at your wedding.
Yeah.
But because of this illness, whatever you want to call it, you couldn't have that opportunity. So you had to find something else. Like the idea of somebody having to cut their alcoholic parent out of their life is based on the fact that they want a parent, not that they don't want them. It's not like being selfish. It's born out of that thing. And I just want to read what Hillary said here, because I think it's important. We are the experts in our own life. We need enlightened witness to help and support us to make huge decisions. Yeah. See, I think it's really such an important thing. And somebody's just said in the Q&A that you're really inspiring. There's like a Q&A section that doesn't come up there. So if there are any questions, by the way, for the people that are in here, then please feel free to ask them. We've got a couple of minutes. I'm gonna ask you the question that I like to ask everybody, which is, if you could go back and speak to the let's say 12-year-old Jen, what would you say to her?
You can't fix it.
Yeah. Oh, it's so powerful as well. It's just a few words, right? Yeah.
You can't fix it, and it's not your fault.
Yeah.
That's what I would say. Yeah.
Let me ask you this. What do you think the 12-year-old Jen would say to you if you could see her now?
I think she would tell me to stop crying. And I think she would... I mean, a 12-year-old me, I was quite timid. I was quite shy. I had a little group of friends, but I was saying to the guys at Be Sober, I was speaking to Alex a few days ago, when I was in junior school, my mum was a teacher in my school, and it was really difficult to be able to see and speak to other teachers because she was also there. So I think a 12-year-old me felt a lot of relief that I didn't have to be in that situation anymore, starting senior school, but also very scared. So I don't know I think she'd say she was proud of potentially of how my life's turned out now.
Yeah, I like that.
And I think she would say, I think she would be happy that I have turned out the way I have, rather than going down the route that my family told me I was going to go down.
Yeah,
I think I've said this to you before, like a few people in my family referred to me as Meg.
yeah,
I was very much, I felt like the outsider, it's, it's a Family Guy. And I was always like, oh, shut up, Meg, or, you're Meg. And it was just, I think from a 12-year-old me who felt very isolated, I think she would be happy to know that what I've got now, she can look forward to.
yeah. How do you think, this is a difficult question. I've kind of asked it already, but and I don't want to go down the tips and tricks route, because I don't like that idea. But if people are watching this, right, I know we've talked about the struggles that you still have. I think they're normal. You're a human being.
Yeah.
What you have is in a level of awareness of them. But you do seem like you talked about your husband, who you think's an amazing man, right? So you've obviously got an incredible marriage, an incredible family home that you've built, right? What do you think you could take out of your adult life to share with us that's been enabled you to do that? It's a hard question, I know.
Yeah, I don't honestly, it's a difficult one to answer, because I think I put myself in a situation where I just wanted to get out of the house, so I was working. I had like 2 or 3 jobs at any one time, and because I worked so hard, and I just had that determination that I don't want to be Meg, I don't want to be that person that everyone's telling me to be. I was really stubborn. So it's not that you can have a life lesson as such, but I think it's just knowing that you do have your own choices, and that if you want to be someone different, then you can be, and that's okay. And I think coming to the realization, as if I do lose family members, or if I do lose relationships with family members, then that's not my fault, and that's up to them. And at the end of the day, they're the ones that are going to lose out on our relationship. And you can meet people and surround yourself with people that do love you and do want you and do want to watch you be as successful as you can be. But I think it's making that decision to surround yourself with those people, and not giving up, and not succumbing to that lifestyle and those life choices. And don't be what people expect you to be, basically.
Yeah.
Be someone that you want to be.
Yeah. And what I hear from that is, what you're basically saying is, don't abandon yourself for anyone else.
Yeah.
Be who you are, and there are people on the planet who will love you for that, in friendships or relationships, whatever it may be. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think you're never going to be alone. And even if you feel like you're alone, it's not going to be for very long. And you will meet people, because you've got to kind of push yourself into situations where you surround yourself with those people that do love you and do want to be with you. And if you start creating your own bubble, your own family bubble, then bubble might not be the appropriate word to use during COVID, but your own family unit, and whether they're blood or not, as long as you know that you're happy and that they love you and they support you, then that's all that you can really ask for.
Yeah, that's such a great answer. There's a question here from Beth. It says, how do you cope with the feeling of helplessness that comes from not being able to do anything to help or fix the situation? Very good question.
I mean, that's it. You do feel helpless, but I think when you I started to, and it took me a long time. It took me many, many years. I mean, I'm 32 now, and I still feel like I can try and fix it. But I think as time goes on, I think it's the realization that you can't fix it, and you need to just start to realize that it's their choice, not yours, and you just need to. It's not easier said than done, and I know that, but you just need to learn to try and deal with the fact that you can't fix it, and you just start looking after yourself and healing yourself and being the person that you want to be, because no matter what their decisions are or their choices are, it's not your fault. And again, you can't fix it. I don't think you're ever going to get away from that feeling. I think it takes a lot of time and a lot of strength.
Do you think it's helped you to create a level of distance? Like, I've talked a little bit about, like, whether you cut your parent out of your life completely, or we tend to create two polarized opposites, right? But it sounds like you've got you haven't cut your mum out or anything like that, but there is a level of distance in the relationship that you feel comfortable with. Does that sound fair?
Yeah, I think it's almost, she reaches out a lot, and a lot of the time, like I said, 9 times out of 10, it's not very nice when she does reach out, and I choose whether I reply or not. It's my decision whether I go back to her or not, or whether I call her or not. So I think that level of distance I've got control over. So I'm not in the house. She can't control me to that degree anymore. So the fact that I can choose when to go back to her, or when to respond to her, or when to be normal with her, that gives me a lot of control, which is good, because she's not controlling my emotions or the situation anymore.
Yeah. And so you base that decision on whether you're going to interact with those messages on how you feel and your headspace and where you're at. It's on your terms.
Yeah. If I'm not in a good place mentally or physically or whatever, and she sends me a really rubbish message, I'll just completely ignore it. But if I feel strong enough to go back to her, or if I feel like I can reply, or if I feel like I can do something, or just say something, or leave it, or have the control, then that's my decision, and that's how I feel comfortable dealing with it at the moment. Is when I feel strong enough to deal with it, I will.
I love that. That's some really actual good takeaways that people in this situation might be able to actually take away and really implement into their life. And Beth says thank you. That, like, I mean, I don't want to do anyone else a disservice, but that's one of the best answers I think I've heard in terms of like something that's really actually actionable that people can take away and do.
I mean, it's difficult for people who are in that situation still. I don't live with her anymore, so it's easier for me to do that. But if you do have that option, then I would say, if you're mentally not prepared to deal with that situation, then don't, because it's not going to do you any favors whatsoever, and it's only going to hinder you more. So I would, walk away, breathe, go and do something, go for a run, exercise, whatever it is that you do that calms you down or just makes you feel easier about the situation, then do that over choosing to reply and respond.
Yeah. Listen, I think that's great advice. I think it's really good. I'm looking forward to, we're coming to a close here because we've only got a couple of minutes, but I'm really looking forward to the training in March. You are going to come along and help out with the next volunteer training.
I am, yeah. I'm going to be on your side this time.
Yeah.
Looking at the new recruits.
Yeah, looking at the new recruits. And Beth, just because I know Beth asked about it earlier, the best way to find out about the volunteer training is to get in touch with Nacoa through the You can get involved part on the Nacoa website, which is an amazing website now. All the information's on there about how to become a volunteer and doing the next training, of which Jen is going to be a huge part of, helping us to deliver it, which will be great, which will be really good. Hillary says, thank you, Jen. I want to say from the bottom of my heart, a huge thank you for not just for today, but everything. Can one volunteer from London? Yes, you can. You can now. You can't answer the phones, but there's lots that you can do, and you can enroll on the training. You don't have to be in Bristol to do that. So, like I say, reach out to Nacoa for that. What was I saying? Thank you, not just for today, Jen, but for your kind of willingness to use your experience in the way that you have to create change. Like me, you're not based in Bristol. So you've used
I'm not too far from you, actually.
Yeah, you're Reading, right?
Yeah.
Berkshire, yeah. So you're like you've done what I did, which is like used your keenness and your desire to help people. You have to start thinking outside the box. How can I get involved? Be keen, put yourself in there, make sure you keep showing up. And we need people like that. We need people like that in our tribe. And I've been telling everyone that the live is like a full initiation into the tribe. So that's it now. You're part of the gang. You're in. So I want to say thank you, genuinely. I think you're an amazing person, and I can't wait for the years ahead and all the work that you're going to do to support these children in situations similar to ours.
No, I'm excited, and thank you everyone who's listened as well. I think it's really important to, at the moment, social media is such a good and amazing platform to be able to share the Nacoa's helpline number. So I think it's super important to get that out as many people as we can.
Amazing. Right, I'm going to let you go because we're bang on one, and I'm sure it kicks us out. It's not saying anything yet, but I think it will, and I don't want it to do it while I'm mid-flow. So thank you very much. And
My pleasure.
Listen, I'll see you very soon as well.
See you soon. Thank you.
All right, take care,
Bye.
everyone. Bye.
Bye.